Can a truly held religious belief be a defense to what would otherwise be a crime? To find out, you have to read Reynolds versus United States, but it's 22 pages. Don't have time for that? I've got you covered. This is TLDR, Too Long Didn't Read, where I normally cover New York Court of Appeals cases, and I try to do it in 5 minutes or less. But this is part of a limited series I'm doing on landmark cases in various areas of the law. This is on religious liberty issues. This is the case of Reynolds versus United States, published in 1878. The citation for this case is 98 U.S. 145. The issue in this case, very interesting issue, is whether a truly held religious belief can justify, basically excuse, be a defense to otherwise criminal conduct. To understand and appreciate the context of this case, you have to understand two things about religious liberty in the law. First is that there's two kinds of protections found in the Bill of Rights. The first is the Establishment Clause, and the second is the Free Exercise Clause. The Establishment Clause is a provision of the First Amendment to the United States Constitution that prohibits the government from establishing or sponsoring a religion. It's sort of a double-edged sword. It's two protections. It prevents religious abuse of governmental function and political abuse of religious functions. And basically, it applies to the federal government as well as states, and it's that separation of church and state that we talk about. The second thing is the Free Exercise Clause. The Free Exercise Clause allows individual citizens freedom from governmental interference in both private and public religious affairs. It protects citizens' rights to practice their own religion as they please, with the exception and exclusion of, as long as it does not run afoul of public morals or compelling governmental interest. Those are the two protections that religion is provided that are relevant to this particular case. The facts are that in the state of Utah in the 1870s, bigamy was a crime. Bigamy being the crime of having multiple spouses at the same time, being married to multiple women at the same time, essentially is how it really worked. And George Reynolds was married to a woman in Utah, and then he decided to get married to another woman in Utah. And he did this, he says, because he's a member of the Mormon Church. And he says that, and he provided proof during the course of the trial that through the form of testimony and witnesses, that part of his religious belief and his religious practice was that Joseph Smith taught that having multiple wives at the same time, being a polygamist, is required by the faith. And if he doesn't do that, he'll be punished with eternal damnation. And he also provided proof that he, in fact, got married in the Mormon Church with the permission of the Mormon priests and the Mormon community, that everything was in accordance with his religious beliefs. He then asked, when it was time for jury selection, or when it was time for jury charge, he said, "Judge, I want you to charge the jury that if I truly believe this to be my religious obligation, then I'm not guilty." And the judge said, "I'm not going to charge them on that." He was convicted, and then he ultimately appealed, and it goes to the United States Supreme Court. And the question is, was that proper? Did that violate his religious rights, his religious liberties? And the Supreme Court goes through the Founding Fathers' approach to religious liberty and through the different clauses of the Constitution that relate to it that we discussed. And they say no, that religious liberty in the United States allows you freedom for religious thought and religious beliefs and religious opinions, but it does not provide a justification to commit what would otherwise be a crime. That you can believe what you want to believe based upon religious liberty, but you can't do whatever you want to do. And they say that it would be crazy. They go through some examples. They say, well, could you sacrifice a child if that was your religious belief and not be murder? Could you kill your spouse when you died? Because some religions have spouses going on funeral pyres. No, that would be murder as well. And the key quote of this decision is, to permit what Reynolds wants would be to make the professed doctrine of religious belief superior to that of the law of the land, and in effect to permit every citizen to become a law unto himself. That became a famous quote. Government could exist only in name under such circumstances. So the rule from this case is that religious liberty allows you to believe, to express opinions, to think how you want to think, but you can't do whatever you want to do if it otherwise violates a crime, violates the law. And that's the case of Reynolds versus United States. Still good law, even though it's from 1878. Have a good day. If you like what you just saw and want to see more just like it, please hit like or subscribe to let me know.